Hey, it's me again, it's David. Guess what we're doing today? Discussing this book by Francine Rivers. Let's check it out. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's David, the Friday Book Show host. Welcome. Today we'll be discussing an amazing book, Scarlet Thread by Francine Rivers. So it's a big book, yeah, I know. So in case you've been wondering, who is Francine Rivers? So Francine Rivers is an international bookseller. She is an author and she's based in the US. And basically she's written like a span of books, like there's a ton of them, and her books are Christian fiction, so she writes really amazing inspirational books, and some of her stories actually have some form of biblical meaning, like they actually have a biblical like origin. Like say she's written a book titled Village of Grace. This is based on some women figures from the Bible, and she's also written a book called Sons of Encouragement, which is also based by some male figures. But then there's some books that she's written that are purely fiction, like for example Scarlet Thread. And this is a book that I bought sometime last year and I read, and to be honest, it's really amazing, and I wished I had developed this interest some time back earlier, because I have been reading for quite a while now. Like I've been reading like for a very long time, but Christian fiction was never really my niche. Like I wasn't really a fan of contemporary Christian fiction. I didn't even know any Christian fiction at the time. Yeah, I got to know Francine Rivers through a couple of people. One of them being a very good friend of mine, Dr. Nicola. She's a bookworm. She reads a lot, and she's just basically a really inspirational Christian. And she got great content, and she's a YouTuber. Yeah, you can check her out if you want to. Yeah, Nicola Banda. So she reads. She's a writer as well, and she had this. She used to do this kind of thing where she used to share snippets from the book, like she would post them on her status on WhatsApp, and every time she would like get a picture of the book and put a snapshot. Then to get us intrigued, like she get us captivated, like she's reading the book and she's posting like, oh, and I got interested, and she would share a lot. Then there are other figures, of course, that played the role, like Stephen Zainab as well, from the church. She mentioned a lot about, okay, she talked a bit about Christian fiction, and one of them is Masterpiece, which is another book which I'm currently in love with, a book that I've been trying to get a hold of, and that's also by Francine Rivers. So to be honest, rather to be fair, I can just say a number of people have played the role in my liking of this particular author and her books, and I got this book in particular because of Nicola. Yeah, she did that thing. I got captivated and I got interested, and I ended up buying the book. So, if you want to look up Francine Rivers, you can just check her up, search her name, Francine Rivers, and she's got a span of books I already mentioned. So, Scarlet Thread, why this book? It spans over a couple of years, just to be specific. Yeah, so it tells a story of a certain young woman, who gets, like, she gets her life changed when she marries this particular Spanish young man that she's in love with, teenage love. Yeah, so she loves this particular young man that her dad necessarily doesn't really approve, and she tries by all means to stand on her feet. And as time goes on, she eventually marries this guy, and the friction between her dad and the husband whom she now has kind of like dissipated, and eventually the father grew fond of this man. But then the story kind of takes like kind of from like a journey. It shows you what happens, because this particular young man by the name of Alexandro, yeah, it's he's Spanish, so he's just Alex. He's got goals and he's got dreams, and it reaches the point whereby he gets like the chance to get his dream career. He gets his dream career, and he gets a job somewhere far from the city, from where this lady is grown up. Because when she gets to stay in the city where her parents are, she's staying in the same place, so it's easy for her to visit. But then she gets taken to a different place where life is gonna be so good, it's gonna be great, because this guy has got two kids, like he's given her two beautiful children, and that's a boy and a girl, and it's a really great family to say. But the whole idea of him taking the family elsewhere, it's like it doesn't sit well with her. Then she gets to talk to her mom, and there's that kind of conversation between the two, and it's like she doesn't know if she's supposed to be happy for him, or she's supposed to be like sad and like she's just confused because basically this whole thing like it's like she didn't want to go. Somebody's trying to do the best for his family. Then he's basically at the same time doing something that is best for him because it's best for what for he want to do like his career. But he's not really considering her feelings. But then not forgetting she's also not considering his feelings and his achievements. So she goes to the mom, and the mom gets to tell her about the dad and how the dad was about opportunities, like how he switched different jobs. And she's like, "Oh, that was my dad. Like, she didn't really know that." So she gets to know more about her dad, and mom gets to share things with her, and eventually she agrees. But then there's that bond that was there. It's not really the same as before. She doesn't really seem to see the value of what her husband is doing. Like he's doing everything he can just to make everybody happy, but she doesn't seem to communicate. And she joins a club where she with other fellow women. She gets to like it was a tennis club. She socialized with other people, but then because of that detachment, she finds other people of higher class because the people that she's now staying with are different. So this particular lady that's eventually becomes a friend, but in the early days of the story, like they kind of like don't really get along. So what happens is that eventually she becomes distant. She's not really communicating with her husband. Then they just have a fallout, and before you know it, the man moves out, and everything's crumbling down. The family is breaking, and he's moving from one place to place. Now he's with another woman, and she's trying to. Okay, she's trying to get to understand herself and just everything else, and she's going through some trouble. And at the same time, we also get to discover because it also talks about a certain lady from the like the early centuries, like should have been early 1800s. Yeah, she gets to talk about her life because it's also about this woman who gets married to a particular man that is dreaming to go to this particular new territory, like living the area, like going to a new place, looking for greener pastures, so to say. So it talks about their journeys, their strife, their struggles, the people they met along the way. So basically, the character that we talk about, Mary Catherine McMurray. So she's basically a lady who gets to be a pioneer. She goes to a place called the Oregon Trail. Yeah. So this is basically a place where her believed husband, like this man, was so focused on going to this particular area, but like there was just so much that had to happen. So they went through so much strife, and the sad part that happens is that she doesn't really get to enjoy the place with him because tragedy happened. Yeah, so tragedy happens. She meets people. Like it's just it. It's like you're trying to get to a place, but for what cost? Like what will it cost them? Like what will they get in return? So like they go to this particular place and they get there and they don't really get to find what they need, what they really want. And she's not a believer. Like she kind of like doesn't really believe God. She knows about God, but because of the things that have happened to her, she doesn't have that kind of like faith that she's supposed to have until something happens where then she gets saved and like she gets physically saved. Like she's in trouble, then somebody comes to her rescue. So she gets to believe in God because that moment was very scary for her. So she's got a number of kids, which she's got a span of kids. So she's got a number of kids, and she's trying to take care of them and fend for them because at one point the same figure who was supposed to be there for her and who was taken to this particular area is no longer there. So it's about tragedy and turmoil and she discovering herself, and to some extent I guess she had some similarities because she was married a couple of times, and there's some struggles, and the person she married is not the one that she ends up being with, then she ends up marrying somebody else. So like it kind of like connects with the main character who's Sierra Madrid, who marries the same Alexandra Madrid. So it's sort of like she gets to discover more about herself, and as the story gets to unweave and to unravel, we get to see behind the whole storyline of why Francine Rivers named this book as Scarlet Thread. So it's basically it's a biblical story. So if you get to read the entire tale, you get to understand why the title Scarlet Thread. Like it all unravels. So it's all about family, infidelity, forgiveness, and marriage, and life decisions and options, and just knowing what's really best. Because at the end of the day, we get to see that this lady, particular Sierra, she was caught driving at a very very high speed, and she just wanted answers. And the office that stops her ends up being the man with the answers, because he takes her to a church where she discovers herself. And as everything is going on, she has to come to a point where she has to now forgive this man. Like he's caused her so much pain. She has to forgive her husband. The kids are caught in a rock and a hard place. The son has got He's got frustration over his father because his father's with another woman. Then the younger girl is basically still in love with the dad. So like there's that kind of thing that has to happen. Then he realizes his frustration, and they try to fix that their life together and to get back and everything all as it gets like to unravel completely. It all hangs around this very title, Scarlet Thread. So if it's got a biblical title, it's got biblical meaning. So if you read the book, was she explains it, and you get to understand why she named the book Scarlet Thread. And I was like, wow, okay. Like I'm fascinated because that type of story that she's written before, like this is the masterpiece. Yeah, like a number of stories that I really want to read. And if you look at this book, a number of books that she's written that are really really great. Like there's the masterpiece, there's the voice in the wind, the echo in darkness. Like it's fun. Like and I haven't read all these books, and I'm wondering, wait, what happened? Like, how come I'm just discovering this book, or rather her books right now? Like I could have known her some time back, and really, it leaves you thinking because her stories are not just entertaining you, but they're basically helping you grow even spiritually. And it can be something that's actually going to leave you thinking, wow, now because if you look at her books. Yes, something like a Bible study. She even leaves questions. Like she points out stuff. Yeah, she points out stuff for you. She leaves questions. Like she compares and the characters, and she's got these Bible verses for you. Like, oh, okay. Like really, her fiction is just really, really good. I want to read such Christian fiction. I can just better check it out because she's basically really, really good, and I'm amazed. So basically, that's it. So have you guys read it? What are your questions? Yeah. What do you think about Francine Rivers? Have you read her book? Like, she's pretty cool to be honest. So this is basically what I have for you today. So we'll see what happens next week. So for me, host of the Friday Book Show, it's David. I'm out.